Today, we embark on an exploration of one of the most dynamic and influential chapters in the history of English literature, the Restoration period, which begins in 1660 with the return of Charles II to the English throne. This moment marked the end of a rigid Puritan era and the dawn of a new age marked by cultural revival, intellectual curiosity, and a significant transformation in literary forms, themes, and sensibilities. The Restoration was not merely a political event. It was a cultural and artistic renaissance, a reawakening that gave rise to secularism, satire, wit, and bold experimentation in literary expression. Historical context: from Revolution to Restoration, to appreciate Restoration literature, we must first understand its backdrop. In the 1640s, civil war raged in England between the Royalists, supporters of King Charles I, and the Parliamentarians, led by Oliver Cromwell. In 1649, King Charles I was executed, and for over a decade, England became a Puritan commonwealth, a time characterized by strict morality, suppression of the arts, and the closure of theaters. However, with Cromwell's death in 1658 and the public's growing disillusionment with Puritan rule, the monarchy was restored in 1660, and Charles II was invited to reclaim the throne. This moment, known as the Restoration, brought about a revival of pleasure, artistic freedom, and cosmopolitanism. The court of Charles II, who had spent years in exile in France, became a hub of cultural influence and literary patronage. Reopening of theaters and theatrical renaissance. One of the most immediate and symbolic changes of the Restoration was the reopening of theaters, which had been banned for nearly 18 years. Theater became a central cultural institution once again. Restoration drama evolved with new styles, themes, and formats, incorporating secularism over morality, witty dialogue, sexual frankness. Satirical takes on aristocratic life women were allowed on stage for the first time in England, leading to the emergence of the first English actresses, such as Nell Gwynn, who was also Charles II's mistress. French influence was visible in set design, dramatic unities, and manners, thanks to Charles's time in France. Major literary figures of the Restoration era: John Milton, 1608-1674. Though he belonged more to the Puritan age, Milton's most iconic work was published during the Restoration, Paradise Lost, 1667, a profound Christian epic that wrestles with themes of free will, obedience, temptation, and the fall of man. Written in blank verse, it represents the pinnacle of epic poetry in English. Other important works: Paradise Regained, 1671, Samson Agonists, 1671, a tragic drama reflecting personal and political turmoil, despite the Restoration's secular spirit. Milton's voice provided a deep, spiritual, and philosophical counterpoint to the dominant literary trends. B. John Dryden, 1631-1700. Dryden is often considered the literary spokesman of the Restoration. First official poet laureate of England, 1668, master of satirical poetry, heroic drama, and translation. Major works: Absalom and Achitophel, 1681, a political allegory critiquing rebellion against monarchy, full of biting satire. Macflecknoe, a mock-heroic poem ridiculing literary mediocrity. His prose criticism, like essay of dramatic poesy, laid the foundation for modern literary criticism. He also translated works of Virgil, Juvenal, and Ovid, helping to bridge classical and modern English literature. C. Aphra Behn, 1640-1689, one of the first professional female writers in England. Behn's career was a milestone for women in literature, breaking gender barriers in a male-dominated literary world. She wrote plays, e.g. The Rover, poetry, prose fiction, most notably Orinoco, 1688, a proto-novel about an African prince enslaved in Suriname. It deals with colonialism, slavery, race, and human dignity. Her work reflects libertine themes, but also moral complexity, and she is often credited with paving the way for the English novel. D. John Bunyan, 1628–1688. In contrast to the wit and worldliness of court writers, Bunyan emerged from a dissenting religious tradition. His masterpiece, The Pilgrim's Progress, 1678, is an allegory of the Christian journey through life. Written in simple, accessible prose, it became one of the most widely read books in the English language. Bunyan's work reflects the inner life, faith, and perseverance, offering a spiritual compass in an otherwise secular age. John Locke, 1632–1704. Although not primarily a literary figure, Locke's philosophical writings had profound influence. His two treatises of government, 1689, argued against absolute monarchy and for natural rights, life, liberty, and property. His ideas on individualism, empiricism, and reason greatly influenced the Enlightenment, and by extension, literature. He helped shift intellectual discourse from divine authority to rational inquiry and secular governance. Key literary themes and styles of the Restoration period. Restoration literature reflected the changing tone of society. Satire and wit, a major hallmark. Literature became a tool for social and political critique. Neoclassicism, a return to the ideals of order, decorum, and balance found in ancient Greek and Roman models. Courtly intrigue. Many works explored the scandals, affairs, and hypocrisy of the aristocracy. Moral ambiguity. Unlike earlier Puritan literature, this period accepted and even celebrated human flaws and complexities. Political commentary. Writers had to navigate censorship and patronage, often expressing views through allegory or anonymous publication. The rise of journalism and the early English novel. This era laid the groundwork for the 18th century novel. Periodicals like the London Gazette, 1665, and other newsletters circulated widely. Coffee houses emerged as intellectual and literary hubs, where writers, politicians, and thinkers exchanged ideas. Increasing literacy rates and public interest in current affairs created a reading public hungry for both news and narrative. These developments would later lead to the rise of authors like Defoe, Swift, and Fielding. Restoration drama and comedy drama during the Restoration became a mirror of elite society, humorous, flirtatious, and daring. Prominent playwrights. William Wycherley, The Country Wife, William Congreve, The Way of the World, George Etheredge, The Man of Mode Major. Comic styles, comedy of manners, satirized the pretensions and affectations of the upper class, featured clever dialogue, and romantic entanglements. Comedy of humors, characters driven by exaggerated traits, drawing from Ben Jonson. Situational comedy, based on misunderstandings, disguises, and mistaken identities. These plays reflected not only entertainment, but also the tensions between tradition and modernity, morality and pleasure, and class identity. Conclusion: the Restoration. Period stands as a turning point in English literary history. It marked a shift from religious restraint to secular exploration, a renewal of artistic expression and public performance. The emergence of literary satire, political commentary, and early prose fiction. The rise of individual voices, including women and dissenting authors, from Milton's solemn epics and Bunyan's spiritual journey to Dryden's political satires and Behns' pioneering novels. This was a rich, multifaceted literary age. The influence of Restoration literature echoes through the Enlightenment and continues to shape modern literary forms.